This computer. Cool. Okay, excellent. Right, well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to sort of see you here again. This is our, I think, fourth one of these. So Stephanie's second. So welcome back. So you were popular enough to have you back, Stephanie. So welcome for that one. As you know, we've done a few of these. They're all videoed. If you have missed the past ones, please, they're on the YouTube account. They're in the WhatsApp group. If you've not joined the WhatsApp group yet, please do. We're keeping everyone updated of the latest things. The good news, I've just seen somebody's posted that the furlough has been extended now to June. So, which was sort of expected as we've got the next 3 weeks of lockdown, but that takes a little bit of pressure off about feeling we have to go back to work in that time. But that does mean that this extended period of furlough, of lockdown, working from home, or for those that are actually working in the offices, factories, etc., does mean that we've got an extended period here of actually dealing with the problems of managing remotely. And for a lot of us, it's the first time. For me, myself, I used to work from home many sort of before starting or getting the office for Action Coach. So I've had about 10 years of being used to working in that environment, but many of you haven't. And I would guess that the majority of your teams haven't either. Okay, so we have to really understand that this is a different environment in which we're working, and therefore, we've got to understand that our management techniques need to change as we go through. So, what I'm going to do, I've put some slides together. I'm going to sort of bring Stephanie's sort of HR. For those that don't know Stephanie, she runs Pure HR, so it's a local HR company advising a lot of my clients, a lot of other businesses around on their sort of best practices, how to actually get the most out of their people. Because for me, HR is not just about form filling and the compliance side. It's should be a lot more strategic than that. Actually planning people, recruitment, and actually getting the best out of the people. So if we look at this, a lot of people sort of say, well, actually people just come to work for money. That sort of the biggest motivator for people is money. And, this has been proven certainly in the last 5-10 years. Perhaps it did work in the past when we were much more transactional work. So go back to Henry Ford and that transfer from agricultural age into industrial age, actually just paying people money that they didn't have before was potentially a motivator. You got off, you did your work, you got paid, and that was it. But as we've moved into a more knowledge-based workforce, it's certainly in the UK, it's a lot of service-based. We're moving away from that sort of, I do this, I get paid this. Okay, I know some of you will feel that is still the case, but all the science behind this has shown that we're moving in much more of a self-motivation world. That we've got to create environments where our team, the guys that we're working with, are actually able to actually motivate themselves. So I love this little quote. I didn't actually realize it'd come from him. I first came across this from a guy called Daniel Pink, wrote book Drive. So if anybody hasn't read that, I'd thoroughly recommend it. Really good book on motivation and what drives us. And he sort of had this concept of that core of being autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Those are what fundamentally drive human beings. So self-actualization. This is all back. You want to trace this back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's very much coming from that sort of side of things. So I tend to, over the years, is sort of use these models, but sort of come back to my own little model as well, which is really based around the way our brains work. So we've got 3 parts to our brain. We've got our reptilian brain, we've got our limbic system, and we've got our neocortex. That's how humans have evolved over the millennia. Started as basic animal instincts, the reptilian brain. We've moved into this emotional limbic system because we're a relationship animal. And now we're moving into that neocortex, that thinking brain, that ability to think forwards, and actually grow as human beings. So if we take those three parts and we break them down into, our reptilian brain function, which is about performing, it's about doing, which is sort of over here. We've got our limbic system, our relationship brain, which is over here, and then we've got a neocortex, that learning brain, which is up here. Okay, so these is based on that. It's fundamentals of how human beings actually operate and how they're motivated. So to really sort of set the scene for this is, if we look at this from the sort of the ground up, as it were, our performance really is that reptilian brain, which is move away from pain. Okay, so it's there to keep us alive. Our fight or flight instincts, we're inbuilt with these. We've all got them, and generally, what that part of the brain responds well to is this really clear set of goals, key performance indicators, an element of competition, and as the founder of Zoho said, autonomy. That feeling that we're in control of our own destiny. I do this, I get this. That's a very simple. I do this. I'm looking for very quick, short-term rewards that says I've actually succeeded. I've stayed alive today. Go back to Neanderthal man would be, the hunter-gatherer. I've gone out. I've got some food. I've brought it back for the family. Therefore, today's been a good day. And if you think about where we've been in the last few weeks, ever since the COVID really sort of kicked in and we all realized how serious it was going to be, this has been the biggest driver for most of us. Okay, this move away from pain, this staying alive, this short-term adrenaline fueled focus. Now, what we're finding now, again, we've got quite a few people on the session today. It'd be interesting to see if you feel this, is once that adrenaline, that sort of excitement of moving away starts to reduce, we can start to feel we're in a bit of a limbo land, okay, a little bit sort of lost, a little bit, what do I do next? We've been driven by the environment to do what we need to do, and now we're in that situation where that's going to become more difficult. So if we're feeling that, then our teams are most definitely going to be feeling that. If not already, this will come over the next week or so. We have this sort of a bit of a dip that actually causes that problem. So if I bring Steph in now, sort of, any thoughts on that, Steph? Have you seen that with the clients that you're working with at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, generally, the pace is almost everybody seems to have crashed almost over the bank holiday. We stopped. It was a 4-day break. Most people stopped working. The panic of the first 3 weeks seems to have subsided, and people have kind of gone and breathed into it. And we're already starting to see kind of little snippets of messages from employees get back to employers, whereby they're at a different position to the employer. The employer is obviously thinking about keeping the business going.
Yep.
And the employee is kind of swinging between, have I got enough money to pay the bills, versus actually I need to think about my own safety, and do I actually want to go out and be anywhere?
Yeah.
So it's a real balancing act between the two, and it's that challenge. They're going through a kind of a grief change cycle in their own right. It's just not aligned to the one that the business owner is.
Exactly. So we might find as business owners we're definitely over in here, and actually they're not. They might be over here in that relationship brain that I'm nurturing and looking after my family. That's the most important. Or they might be in that, well, family's okay, I'm not really performing, but I could be motivated by growth and improving myself, but I'm in a bit of a void, a bit of a vacuum. So we've got to understand that where we might be in a certain part of our brain function, but our team may not be in that situation as well. And it's very difficult if you're over here thinking this, talking to somebody over here, you're not even going to be talking the same language. You're going to find it very difficult to relate to them, and they're going to find it very difficult to relate to you. So if we move from our reptilian brain function, which is, say, very, very short term, it's not a very intelligent part of our brain. It just does what it does. It's very powerful. It's very quick. But as soon as the goals, KPIs, all of this stops, it shuts down. Okay, it starts to relax, and then sort of, if you go back to the sheep in the field, You know, sheep does what it does all day, it eats grass. Yeah, big bad wolf comes along, sheep sees it, runs away, big bad wolf goes, it goes back to eating grass. So this will drive us to a certain level, but then its impact will actually stop. What then sort of comes in is this limbic system, our relationship brain, which is really about the sort of our purpose. Why are we here? You know, go back to early man again. Our whole purpose is to, you know, maintain the species. It's to keep the species going. So that's why family is so important, because we're inbuilt to look after our family, because they're the ones that are going to maintain the species going forward. So therefore, this part of our brain is, again, very powerful because it's had so many millennia to develop, but it's about that communication with other people. You know, am I enjoying this? Am I, yeah, do I feel part of a team? You know, do I feel loved? You know, so you go back to Maslow, it's that middle rank, you know, self-esteem, that emotional connection with the people I'm around. Now, for a lot of people in the work environment, they won't tell you this, but one of the reasons they like coming to work is because they're actually around other people. They get to interact socially with other people. You know, I do know some business owners that actually, you know, they prefer to actually be at work than they do at home. They have more of a relationship with the people at work than they do their family at home. I think that says more about those people with their home life, perhaps. But suddenly we've, you know, by going into self-isolation, we've taken this part away from those people. You know, they don't now have that connection with the people that they are. They're almost, some people are going to be in self-isolation. You know, sort of, you know, maybe they live on their own. You know, maybe they've got, you know, a partner. Maybe they've got a big family. But, you know, it's a very difficult time. So I'm getting a lot of clients at the moment where, you know, themselves with team members are working from home, and that connection between home life and work life is very difficult to balance. They're not set up, you know, they're working from the kitchen table, you know, and the kids are running around, and they're getting very stressed because they're trying to perform, but they also value this a lot, and therefore that takes it away. So again, Steph, have you what sort of examples of this have you come across?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is particularly parents where they've got young children and they're trying to do that balancing act of managing, juggling act that is kind of parenthood, and not having that support system of schools in place. And you know, it's kind of, I think I spoke to somebody the other day, and they literally was, well, you're the first adult I've spoken to in the last 3 days, and actually just wanted to act. You know, they just wanted to kind of almost put the world to rights rather than just deal with their query that was there. And they actually have been suffering from COVID-19. Their businesses around event management, and they're in a situation where they've got nothing going on. Everything's ground to a halt, and actually they were just clambering just to have that normality of some sort of routine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, and this is where I see we're going to get the biggest lack in, or demotivation from people. You know, is that lack of connection with other people. Now, again, we do a lot of disc profiling, you know, actually understanding the types of people we've got, and we find we've got logical people and we've got more people. So what we call the D's and the C's are very logical focus, and the I's and S's are very people focused. So the D's and C's tend to cope with this better than the I's and S's. You know, certainly I's really struggle when they're not around other people and they can't have that social interaction with others. So we've got to understand, again, we may be, you know, actually more of a DC type person, and we're fine with this, but we've got a team full of ISs who are going to struggle with this. So really looking at this and understanding what's going on with ourselves and our team is going to be very, very important. Our third one is then growth. Okay, so this is our neocortex. So this is our thinking brain. So this is our newest brain, neocortex, new brain. This is what we've developed in the last few years over and above, you know, other animals. So it's actually our most powerful part of our brain, but it's actually probably the slowest, and you know, the others will always override this part. But this part of the brain is really our learning brain. It's the ability to think back on the past, its ability to reflect, also project into the future, and it basically takes in that information and actually trains in a way these other two parts of the brain. So if this is our human brain, so we go back to Steve Peters and the chimp paradox. He calls this the human brain. Yeah, this is the chimp brain, and then this is the computer. So this is what actually gets things done. So this part of the brain is stimulated by learning, education. Look at young kids, their new brain is developing, really, really strongly. So it's learning through play. It's learning through doing things, new things excite it. And again, look back what's happened over the last, sort of few weeks is everything is new. We're in a new economic sort of cycle. Moving from office into home is new. Working from home is new. All of this stuff is new, which actually keeps that motivation going. But after 2-3 weeks, it's the same old stuff. I don't know about you guys, but certainly for me, the days are just blurring into one. It's very difficult to work out, well, what's a weekend, what's a weekday, what time of day it is. So that sort of same old, gets to a point where we're not growing, we're not developing, with those new skills. So what we'll find over a period of time, again, this part of the brain will actually start to slow down. We're not getting the relationships, we're not getting the stimulation for growth, and actually potentially our performance and our goals are actually starting to disappear as well. So really, we've got to look at this, and that's the one I think Clark has put there. How might individual resilience affect the ability to move between those segments? Resilience is a big thing. I'd say it's almost a combination of these. We're not born necessarily with resilience. It's how we deal with the situations, and I think in any situation, resilience is the way we deal with this. If we can deal with this, if we can understand how it works and we can deal with it, then we can be more resilient. If we're just being driven by the environment, then that's where I say our resilience levels goes. So if we take these sort of three things, and then we start saying, right, okay, so as managers, as leaders, as business owners, as directors, what do we do with this stuff? How do we make this work within our own working environments? And this is an old, you've probably seen this, Steph, this is a fairly old schematic, but I thought I'd dig it out. And so we've got performance up the left-hand side. We've got sort of stress levels along the bottom. Now, you could sort of take the stress levels and put that as pressure. Okay, so if we apply more pressure, we get an increase in performance to a point here. And then if we continue that pressure, we move into stress and the performance goes down. So as managers in our normal working environment, say a month, 2 months ago, this was happening. Now you might not have known that, you may not have seen it. You'll certainly feel it in yourself of where you've been, where generally you perform and where your teams perform. And what happens is, you've got situations where we don't apply enough pressure. Now the pressure could be internal pressure. Are you driving yourself, or again, are you driven by the external? As business owners, we tend to be quite good at self-driving. We've actually taken that decision to actually, do something on our own, and we have to actually drive ourselves forward. As employees, they may be good at that, or they may actually prefer to rely on external pressure. The fact that you're their boss, you're giving them the task, and you're pushing them forwards. So what's going to happen is, we've been down here, we've gone through this sort of stress period. A lot of us probably feel that we're over here, down into that burnout, too much stress. Employees will feel that as well. And so we'll come back, sort of back along this line. And I think you said, Steph, the bank holiday weekend, is a great one to actually, relax and take it easy. But the danger is then we stay back in here, this too little stress. So have you, what would your take on that be?
Yeah, I mean, I can genuinely see, not only from our own perspective, and that actually our workload has kind of we've come back from that brink of being constantly the phone ringing, everybody needing that instant reaction. But actually, lots of people we're talking to are a bit like, okay, well, I've done the damage limitation, I've furloughed, I'm applying for my civils loan, I'm doing whatever it is as a business owner. I've actually kind of done the damage limitation stuff, I've rested, and I've just gone. So actually, you've kind of gone from the almost verging into the going into red. So there was a lot of panic through to actually, do you know what? I've had a rest now and I've gone back to green and I need to almost tighten myself up a little bit just to get back to all the things that you need to function and do in the meantime.
Yeah. So, it's that real feeling of, turn, you do need to come down here and unload, sort of relax and get your energy levels back. But then we've got to sort of move back into this optimum performance level up here, but understand that we might come into exhaustion. If it goes too far, we go the other way. Now, it does go back to that resilience. That ability to be resilient is the ability to stay out of here and stay out of here. To push ourselves into that, keep ourselves at that point at all times. So we're setting ourselves those goals, we're growing, and we're getting that sort of balance within our relationships as we go forwards. So if we look at this back in the work situation, again, we're going through that, our team are going to go through that. They're probably feeling a little bit over here potentially. My guess though is a lot of your team members, if they're working remotely, the bigger danger is they're going to come back into this too little stress. Okay, there's too little pressure on them to actually perform. And therefore we're going to get underperformance. If we get underperformance, their motivation levels will drop, that they will start to get frustrated that they're not performing at a high level. No one really wants to not do a good job. So we've really got to look at ways, how do we stimulate that higher levels of performance with people without taking them into this anxiety, panic, anger, and exhaustion sort of side of things. So I often look at this in a sporting world, and if we look at with performance, I said before, it's having clear goals and key performance indicators. The key thing with all sports is that we play these sports because we get instant feedback on what we're doing. Okay, so if you take the 10-pin bowler on the left there, you throw a ball down, and within a few seconds you get feedback on the results that you've achieved. Skittles go down, you hear it, and you see it. Now, because you do that, you get that instant feedback, therefore that motivates you to do more. So if you only get one down, you're motivated to try again. If you get a strike, you're motivated to get another strike. And all sports are like that. All sport relies on the fact that you get an instant feedback on, how, of what's actually happening at that time. Now, in a work situation, you sort of get that as well. You get to your desk, you do your work. Now, the feedback might be direct from what actually the activity you're doing, but it can also be from around you. You get that sense of everyone around you is working really hard. I'm working really hard, and therefore I feel okay with the people around me. But as in remote working, you're losing those senses of feedback of how well you're actually performing. So, and that's why I put the blind sort of bowler on there, that if a bowler can't see what's actually happening, those skittles going down, they have to compensate for what they're not seeing. But it is going to be hard, and what we need to do is actually allow our teams to actually think, to be able to see the performance that they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So is there anything that you've come across that sort of has been working well with regard to this, Steph?
Yeah, I think one, communicating by whatever suits you. I mean, even if we use us as a team within my own business, we have a daily Zoom call, and that's partly business, but it's partly social as well. It's just trying to checking in that everybody's at the same spot. And I think the value in having something like Zoom is the fact that you can see faces, because listening to tone is never the same as actually getting that visual recognition. And keeping a track, so we have daily objectives around what we've got on, and that could be just an update from somebody around something new that's come into them, but it's also that accountability to everybody else rather than just themselves. So they're having a bad day and they're not kind of achieving, it kind of keeps them on that level field as to actually there is something I've got to achieve. So it's kind of keeping that goal, but it's almost kind of just making them smaller goals, so that it keeps that focus of just the day-to-day going. A bit like you said at the beginning, whereby you kind of lose the sense of what day it is. I mean, you know, I don't even realise it's Friday. It's that whole focus of going, well, actually, what did you have to achieve today, or what did you have to achieve this week? You know, we're in the middle of the month already, so you know, time really is whizzing by, actually.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've sort of learned over the years is, you know, if you were used to working on monthly goals, so that was, you know, your business is around monthly targets, then what you've got to do now is bring those down to weekly targets. If you are weekly targets, you've got to bring that down to daily targets. If you are daily targets, you've got to bring that down to hourly targets. Everything has to become shorter and more focused when you're doing remote working, because you haven't got the external sources of feedback. You've got to create more sources of feedback for these guys so they can see their level of performance. And what we don't want is, you know, us having to manage and give them that feedback on a regular basis, because that just takes our time and effort. We need a system that allows them to actually do that themselves. Now, that might be difficult. You know, I think John's put up there, you know, many people have different sets of goals and targets. Yeah, you know, different people have different sets, and it is more difficult to do in certain areas than others. That doesn't mean it's going to be less important to do it. Just because it's difficult to do, it still means it's still important. So you've got to work ways to actually deliver that. If anyone's got any sort of questions on ways to do that, you know, I can't say I'm going to come up with an answer, but if you want to pop it up there, I might be able to, you know, we might be able to brainstorm that and come up with some ideas. Because often when we look at our own business, we can't see the wood for the trees. But when you talk about other people's businesses, it can be a lot easier to actually sort of come up with performance metrics that might actually work for particular people in particular roles. So,
can I just add? I mean, we see lots of people historically who've always been really reluctant to let people work at home. You know, it's that whole trust piece. How do I know that they're doing things? And this is a classic. I suppose it's almost like a perfect example, really, of the fact if you set people goals, they've got something to work to. They don't need to be sat unless you need them to answer a phone or to answer emails between 9 to 5. And there will be particularly working parents that actually may break their day up into different chunks. You know, and if you've got something by which you can measure, then you can quantify that the work is being done. And I think, you know, we're obviously having to appreciate that flexibility is a requirement for most people in their lives at the moment.
Yeah, I think, you know, the sort of the normal 9 to 5 probably is, you know, is disappearing. I mean, it has been, you know, over the last few years anyway. But I think certainly in working practices, it is, you know, certainly we've got clients with, you know, team members that have got, you know, they're co-sharing the looking after kids. You know, kids have a, you know, a different working pattern. So, you know, as long as it doesn't, you know, as long as the work is done, you know, and they are achieving the goals that they've been set or have set themselves, then who cares when they work? You know, if they work, you know, 4 a.m. till 7 a.m, that's down to them to actually decide what's going to be best for them. But sometimes they need a bit of help and support with that. You know, almost give them permission to actually do that. I think that's really key to look at that. So Anna, can I come back to that, because I've got to I'm going to deal with the furloughing staff separately, because that, you know, that is a unique situation in its own right. So, but I'd like to just come back to that one, you know, at towards the end of this. So, but at the moment we are looking at people that are actually still working, so they could be in the factory or in the office at the moment, or I try a remote working from home. So I think we've got to understand we've got to take the goals and we've got to make them smaller, and we've got to make the feedback more frequent. We've then got the factor that there's always 2 types of key performance indicator, 2 performance measurements. One is a leading KPI, which is activity based, and one is a lagging, which is a result based. So most of us work on result driven KPIs. So, you know, sales being one, profit being another, you know, if they're in the sales team, the number of sales they've closed, it's the result of something. They're great, fine. If you've got a system that does that and you can bring that into home working, fantastic. Keep on using that, but just reduce the time frame. If, however, that's a bit difficult, then use the activity-based goal setting. Okay, use something that is an activity. So how many things have you done today? How many hours have you worked on a certain project? Break it down into bite-sized chunks that they can understand and they can hold themselves accountable. Because what we're trying to bring here is self-accountability, because that's far easier to work with than you actually providing that accountability. They need to keep track of their own scores and then report to you on a weekly basis, and for you to go, fantastic, brilliant job. Because that's the best form of management, to pat people on the back and say, that was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, really pleased with that. Okay, fantastic. Right, what's next? Exactly the same as in sports. You go out in sports to win. Okay, that's the thing you try to do in sport. But not every day do you win. Yeah, but as long as you've achieved something and you understand why you haven't won and you've actually got off your backside and done it, that on its own should be reward enough. Okay, so really think about shortening the goals, leading and lagging key performance indicators to actually drive this forward. Okay, and yes, you can look at it sort of as an organization, but as we see, you'll go through this, we have to treat everyone as an individual. Okay, we're dealing with people here. Yeah, everyone's motivated in a slightly different way. Everyone will work on in a slightly different format around this. So we've really got to understand our people and what motivates them. Just because it motivates us doesn't mean it's going to be the same for them. So bringing in, as Steph said, that communication is going to be key. And that really brings us on to, so that's going to drive their reptilian brain, their desire to actually do stuff and perform. The next level then is really around the relationships, okay? That limbic system, that need for communication, that need to be loved, that's part of Maslow's hierarchy of need, the need for sort of self-esteem and to feel valued. Now, again, in a work situation, generally that's easy. They see people day to day. You pop in, you say hello. They're in your presence. So therefore, there's a feeling of community, a feeling of value, a feeling of worth. That is completely turned on its head when you're working remotely. They've got a relationship with their family, which they're now in that. And that connection with you, that relationship with you and the organization has suddenly disappeared. So this really comes back to that over communication. Just because they're away, out of sight does not mean out of mind. And this really, Stephanie, you go back to your point of, daily Zoom calls, weekly Zoom calls. If you can't do that, at least an email, some form of communication with these guys to say, look, I still love you. You're still valued. You're still part of the team. We are still a team. And some of that you're going to have to really sort of almost make happen. It may not happen naturally, but you've got to actually make that, actually bring that together. So if anyone's got any examples that they've actually done on this over the last few weeks, it'd be great to have a share. I see Bruce is on the call. Bruce, you've done this a couple of times with some of your guys. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I don't know what to say really. We have worked quite hard on the communication side. So I've been using Microsoft Teams very heavily.
Yep.
So every day we have a daily meeting, both for the staff that are working and a separate meeting for all the staff that have been furloughed. So where, for instance, the guys that are on furlough and they're doing training, they just touch base and let us know what they've been doing. what they've learned. So trying to keep that, team spirit and communication.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And so anybody else that's done something they think is successful, it's great to share if you've got anything. But Steph, what have you come across?
Well, do you know what? I mean, I'm never proud to say this, but I think in my lifetime I've probably made about 5,000 people redundant and done a lot of mergers and acquisition work. And it's, the one thing you always take away from it, that it's one of those things that has to be done, but you pride yourself on hopefully doing it in the right way for the employee and the organisation. And the one thing that I've learned is you keep communicating even if there's no change.
Yeah.
And particularly, having gone through lots of large scale acquisitions whereby the deal's being done at the top level, but you're maybe at a national organisation level and you asking these questions and you don't get any answers. Employees don't stop asking questions. They need their instant recognition, their instant gratification to their situation.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why, emotions get so powerful on social media. And I think it's really important that you sometimes go back and say, look, we don't know the answer to this yet. We're working on it.
Yep.
And we still don't know the answer. And if you don't know the answer, to be honest and communicate with people accordingly, because, they need to understand that things haven't disappeared into a void, particularly because you don't see each other. And if they don't hear from you, people feel forgotten and think you've forgotten them or fallen off their, off of their radar. So, as much as possible, you just keep going, even if it's a case of, look, nothing's changed. This is the latest situation. We've made some developments in this area, but from this perspective, we're still waiting an answer on here. Just be as open and honest as possible. People genuinely, on the whole, respect you for that.
Yeah, I think that's that over communication. Don't forget, when they're not in the office environment, they're not seeing what's going on. They're listening to the news, they're reading newspapers, they're seeing all this negativity, all these problems. The fact that we've just heard now that it's going to be, the furlough extension is another 3 weeks. So you've got to communicate to them. What does that mean for you guys? And if you don't know what that means, then that's fine. It's okay to say, look, at the moment, we don't know. It may be that we'll continue that, but we're looking at this every single day. We've just had one client that we're telling that we're actually going for the bank finance. We're well ahead with actually getting the finance in place to keep the business going. Because if you don't tell them that, they're going to generally think the worst. Am I going to have a job? And what I'm sort of, as we come out of this, certainly with the businesses that are going to be in growth mode when we come out, this is going to be an amazing opportunity for recruitment. Okay, up until now, it's been zero unemployment in the South. It's been very hard to recruit. If you've tried to recruit, it's been nigh impossible. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort to find the right people. We are likely to find a lot more people available, but actually there's a lot of people at home right now that don't know if they're going to get a job or their job's going to be there in a month's time. And it might be there, but because their bosses are not communicating to them, say, yeah, we're 100% you're going to have a job, or there's a good strong possibility, then they, after a few weeks of not, as I say, going to that lull, they're going to be looking on the internet, seeing what else there is, and so one of your competitors might be actually contacting your staff directly through LinkedIn or Facebook and saying, well, look, if you do find that, you don't have a job, then why don't you come and work for me? And they'll go, well, my boss hasn't contacted me in 7 days, 8 days, 10 days. Yeah, you know what? I may as well have a chat. So, and we're going to be using those techniques with our clients as we come out of this through May, June, to actually go and acquire talent. Yeah, so if
we've seen a real example of it this week. So obviously we do fixed fee recruitment. Recruitment, understandably, has almost just died overnight. We've got one vacancy, and it happened to be for a financial services organisation. So they're, for them, it's business as usual. So you're very much the exception to everybody else. We've posted a vacancy, and it's quite a senior role, and it's amazing to see how many people are already jumping and going, do you know what? The writing's on the wall for my organisation. They're not talking to me. I've been unhappy for a long time. I've sat at home. I've thought about these things. It's great that somebody's advertising in this current climate, so they must be really secure. Therefore, I'm willing to kind of make that jump that I normally wouldn't be doing before.
Yep. Yeah, it's just so if you're you should be doing it. So if you are looking to actually bring people on, we should be really working on that recruitment plan coming out of this. If you're not, then you've got to mitigate that and actually build those relationships with your team, and make sure that you are having that communication one to one, as a group, however you want to sort of mix it is going to be really, really important. And at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to do a survey. To actually put out a little survey to everybody, come up with 4 or 5 things that you want to track. There is some survey software that Steph and I have come across that actually integrates in or is linked in with Breeze HR, which is the software that Steph uses. But you can just do a simple Survey Monkey survey and just send it out every week to your team, just to get a feeling of where they are. Okay, these things can help. If they're feeling a little bit down, great, you want to get onto that as quickly as possible. Just because they're not there does not mean your management goes down. In fact, my view is it should be higher. You should be doing more management with you guys right now than you probably would have done before, just because the environment isn't doing that bit of extra management that you would have been doing. So, however you do that, it will depend on the type of business you're in, the type of business owner you are. If you're a high I, an extrovert, people person, then you'll probably enjoy this and you'll have lots of fun doing, Zoom calls over dinner and stuff like that. If you're a high C, introverted, task-focused person, this stuff will be quite difficult for you. Okay, so if it is, then work with people, find somebody who's going to help you come up with some ideas to actually, to make it happen, because, it is going to be so important. Nothing worse than you coming out of this with an opportunity to grow and finding half your team have disappeared. Okay. The other thing also within this, all of this is also due to the fact that when we do come back to work, if I go back to there, if we come back to work and all of our team are down here, how long is it going to take us, and what do we then have to do to get them back up into that optimum performance? This is going to probably take you 2-3 months to get them back in the swing. It's a bit like when you've had summer holidays, at school, and then you come back to school. How did you feel on that first day of school? How long did it take you to actually get back up to actually performing? It's probably, you come back in September. For me, it was probably about October by the time I felt like I was back in the swing of things. Okay, so if we
and you end up with a similar situation where you have people who've been off sick for long periods of time. And
Yep.
I'm not talking about malingerers. I'm talking about people who've just somebody's been off and had surgery. The moment somebody's been off work for 6 weeks or more, the psychological impact of getting them back to work is such a big heaval, because people get out of that routine of getting up at the same time, having breakfast, doing what they do, getting in the car and going to work. That whole mechanics of having to get kids ready for school again. You can imagine what this is going to be like around things, starting to get back to whatever the new normal is, and getting out the door for, the normal times you would do. The average family probably isn't even up and organised by that time now.
Yeah. So we want to, we might not be able to get them to here, but we certainly want them up here, in that high green zone, so that step back into optimum performance when they're back at work is going to be there. Cool. So our third part is really around that neocortex, our learning brain, that brain that likes to be challenged through doing new stuff. This one sort of, at work, I would say, is probably the one that is done the least in organizations normally. If you go back to your appraisals, how often do you do appraisals? Most companies, you're lucky if you do it once a year. I'm a great believer in quarterly appraisals. Every 90 days, you sit down with your guys and you're actually working on their personal development plans. How are you going to be better next quarter than you were this quarter? What do we need to do to provide you the training to be better at your job? Most people in organizations just, they get to a certain level and then they flatline. Okay, and there's no more development of those people, and because the business isn't going anywhere, the people aren't going anywhere, and therefore people are just working because they're paying the bills. There's no motivation. It's a very lackluster organization. And if you think about business you've dealt with, percentage that really drive learning throughout the organization, not just the new guys or whatever, but really believe in investing in their people, and developing those people to drive the business forwards against those that don't. What percentage would you generally say, Steph?
Oh, that's an interesting one.
In the market generally, not your clients, obviously, because your clients will all be at the
Obviously.
just like mine.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how to see, I suppose if I take it to the other end of the extreme, we're never surprised, cease to be amazed at how much pain employers live with underperformers.
Yeah.
We almost kind of live with this level, this plateau that people get to. And we see it time and time again. People come to us and they almost apologise because they've got this situation, which we would laugh about. Actually, if you didn't have that situation, we wouldn't be in business. But we see situations where people have lived with an underperformance for like 10 years plus,
yeah,
and they actually kind of tolerate it. And it's the same thing, that you kind of get to that level kind of hierarchy and just stop. So I'd say it's a really high percentage, actually.
Yeah, I'd see it all the time. Even people that I'm coaching and they understand this, that commitment to build this into their organisation is tough. And a lot of people, will turn around and go, "Oh no, I don't want to learn anything and they, "Oh, okay, well, fine." And it's like, well, but do you really want these people in your organisation? But the pain of actually removing them and getting better people in is often very difficult, so they shy away from it. So if we bring this back into the situation we are in now, again, we talked, I think somebody said about furloughing people. Within the furlough rules, they can educate themselves. They can do training while they're being furloughed. So, they won't be motivated by performance. I would 100% think that they should be motivated by relationship. So just because they're furloughed does not mean you ignore them. Don't, Christ's sake, don't, if they're furloughed, still bring them in on the team calls. You still tell them what's going on. Actually make sure you have that conversation with them on a regular basis. Okay, don't just assume that they're furloughed, that they're no longer employees, because that will bite you in the arse big time. There will be some of them. They can actually you can actually do technical business related training. There might be something they can go and learn, a course to go on. There might be something around that. Some of the guys won't. Okay, they just, for whatever reason, there won't be anything specific that they can do while they're away. That does not mean that they should stop learning. Okay, my view for that, and I have the same thing within organizations, that if you've got somebody that is at the top of their game, or is in an area where further on job training isn't really needed, does not mean you shouldn't invest in their training. Okay, invest in some other training. If they want to learn the piano, right? Okay, I'm going to put your training budget for you into piano lessons. And one stipulation is that you must then perform to us, in 12 months' time, or do something that gives back to the team. If it can relate to that, but even if it doesn't, if they're actually developing themselves on piano lessons, on violin, on some sport, we're talking about motivation here. That's all we want. We want them to be motivated when they come to work. If you're actually investing in their personal development, then their connection with you, their ability to be motivated at work, is going to be so much higher as if you do nothing to them. Okay, so ideally some work-related learning while they're on furlough. If they're not on that, then something else. Go outside. Even if it's, buy them all a business book. Right, here's a book related to what you do. Read that business book. We'll have a book club. We'll run a book club. Read a book a week. Get them into that learning. You've got to stimulate that neocortex, that learning brain, if you want motivated people. It's so important.
On that note, it's a really good thing if you just keep the records of everything you do. But it's a great way of HMRC coming knocking in the future, questioning your furlough, because this is perfectly legitimate. You can go, well, here you go, here's my records of what we were doing.
Yep. So record it again, make it a performance. You know, the performance is, you know, we're going to do X number of online courses, you know, per week. Yeah, and there's a prize for whoever gets through the most learning. You know, people don't want to sit. You know, they really don't want to just sit at home and twiddle their thumbs and watch Netflix. You know, they'll do it if there's nothing else, but if you can stimulate that and get them actually doing something that is going to make them better, then it's really going to help. So ask the employees for business. Yeah, ask the ideas for business ideas. Cook and collect. So, you know, come up with 5 strategies. You know, set them little tasks. Set them something to go and do, something to research. You know, there's going to be a grey area if they're on furlough that, you know, none of this. I think the thing is, it can't be contractual work, you know, and it can't be work to grow the business. But, you know, if you say, right, come up with a competitor analysis, you know, do a bit of homework, stuff that you may have done at the weekend if you're actually being worked, but you know, something you can get your teeth into is going to be really, really beneficial. Okay, so really think about, you know, okay, what can we do to stimulate that neocortex, that learning brain, while they're furloughed or even while they're just sort of remote working. Okay, so again, short term, you know, normally we'd build this into their 90-day plan, but I'd be sort of working with them on a weekly basis. So this week, what are you focused on? Next week, what are you going to focus on? You know, even if it's paying interest to, I'm going to redecorate the house. Fantastic, great. You know, well, show me some pictures of the before and after. Okay, if you do that, then you're going to keep that engagement, keep that motivation for them. So those really are the 3 key things. You know, some form of performance metric, goal setting, key performance indicators that they can measure their own performance. That's the secret to this. It's them measuring, them seeing how they've done and reporting back to you with that metric. Relationships, communication, making sure that they still feel loved. Okay, they still feel part of the team even though they are remote. And the third one is that they're going to be working, you know, on their personal development, improving themselves, you know, while they're furloughed or while they're actually working. The one thing I think that really brings all this together is, for some of us, we are very, very self-disciplined. You know, we just learned, we're just naturally that way, or we've learned to be that way for whatever. You know, we go. You know, as business owners, we generally are that sort of person anyway, which is why we started businesses. But for many people, you know, are all not like Chris Rock. You know, Chris. What's his name? I can't remember his name now. It's gone out of my head. But we're not those sort of people that will work. You know, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers that will just do what it takes to actually build, a Mr. Universe body. You know, we go to the gym, you know, when we feel guilty about it. You know, we're not necessarily that inclined. So therefore, what we've got to do is really got to take those goals, turn them into monthly actions, weekly routines, daily habits. Okay, we've got to do it for ourselves, but we've got to make sure every one of our team members is aware of this as well. Okay, so we've got to actually look and say, right, okay, well, you've got this work to do at home. Yeah. So how are you going to do it? How does your day look? Yeah. How are you breaking the day down? When are you starting? When are your routines? Yeah. If you've got kids to look after, when do they fit into those? Yeah. If we're not helping these guys, Dwayne Johnson, that's the one. Thank you very much. If we're not looking at that and helping them to actually create that self-discipline, then what's going to happen is they're going to go off the boil and things are going to, you know, they're not going to get things done. And, you know, for those that sort of know us, you know, we love our default diaries. Okay. You know, our little calendars of, right, break the day up into bite-sized chunks and do things, you know, as you see fit. So every person that's working from home needs a default diary. I think without that, you know, they're not going to be able to control their day or week. and they're going to get lost. They're going to lose focus, and we're going to go either one way. We're going to work too hard and burn out, or we're going to go too little, and we're going to go into that sort of lower state. So really, we've got to look at how we do that for individual people. And I tend to work, say, with business owners and directors and get them to do this. I don't have that much experience of doing it at a lower level. Steph, have you?
No, I wouldn't say. I think most people are. It's one of those things that actually time management is it's almost kind of seems a bit of a cliche kind of skill set, and people ignore it. But it's weird because obviously we don't necessarily discipline people, and we don't teach it to them when they go through school. So it's a big area that I think if you're not driven and self-motivated, it's a real challenge for a lot of individuals.
Yeah, if you look at any sportsman, if a sports person is looking to run in the Olympics or complete a marathon, they'll break it down. They'll have their timelines. They'll have their training time. They'll have their recovery time. They'll have everything will be mapped out. High performance. Everybody in high performance will come back to that level of tools to help with self-discipline. They know that they can't do it on their own, just out of their mind, because don't forget your brain. Ultimately, your reptilian brain and your limbic system are stronger than your neocortex. So just because you think I want to get fit, that's no good. You've got to want it, and then you've got to create the structure that you can fit in, so that those parts of the brain don't go, do you know what, I'm going to eat that extra donut, and it's a bit cold outside. I don't feel like going out, therefore I won't. Because those will always override your rational brain of what you actually want to do. So having this for yourself, I 100% think this is great. Certainly this is more important the more hats you wear. So if you've got multiple tasks to do, a lot of business owners with a MD, with a sales director, with a marketing director, with a finance director, with the operations director, you've got to put your time in there. If we come back to talking communication to our team, we've got to get that time to communicate in that diary as well. Okay, Google Diary is great for this, but to be honest, we want a default, which is default because you reset every week to it. Just in a little spreadsheet like this is great. If anybody wants, I've got a template spreadsheet of this. If anybody wants that, just to sort of save a bit of time, then I'm quite happy to send that. So just email me or sort of message me in the WhatsApp group. So having that to me makes all that work. You've got your KPIs, you've got your time to review it, you've got your time to actually have your relationship side, you've got your time to actually have your personal growth. And also it gives you as the manager something each week to go back to your team and say, right guys, this is what you said you were going to do, so what did you do? How were you successful? How did you win your little games this week in each of the areas that you were focused on? And the key thing for being a manager, and that's why I put the green screen on the back there, is you want to be sort of rewarding and being the person that says well done to everybody. Because that's what they want. Everyone wants a well done. Everyone likes a pat on the shoulder. If you think management is pulling people up for doing the wrong thing, then that's hard. They don't enjoy it. You don't enjoy it, and it doesn't go anywhere. Doesn't mean that we just you win even when you've lost. No, if they haven't achieved, great. What did we learn? What do we need to do tomorrow? What do we need to do next week to actually bring us through this? So that really wanted to finish really today on those people that are furloughed, that aren't actually working with you. Okay, so and don't forget, furlough was brought in to avoid you having to make people redundant. So as a stopgap before that, rather than laying them off, great, we can actually we can put them on furlough, and now we've extended that for for another 3 weeks as of today. The same applies. It's no different. Performance, relationships, personal growth. Those are the 3 keys to motivation. Now, if they're furloughed, they have to come up with a performance that is outside of the business. personal growth, they can do that related to the business, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah. And relationships, you still need to have the relationships on there as well. It's really, really key. So, for me, there is no difference. It's just a different set of tactics, but the concept is the same. Even helping them with a default diary, is to say, right, guys, you've got to, if you're going to be off, you've got to get some form of structure into your day. So what's it going to be? What are you going to work on? What's your project? You're going to do the house, you're going to do the garden, you're going to do the vehicle. What's the one thing you wanted to do while you're away? And if you pay attention to that, then I think you're going to actually benefit from it as well. Would you add anything to that, Steph?
No, it is. It's just kind of finding a new interest and having that same goal and that same focus and accountability. And and as much as possible, yes, you talking to your employees, but also making sure they talk to each other, because there is that social aspect that we see it over and over again. People, yes, theoretically they have to come to work. 95% of the population have to come to work for a salary, and they will choose a job that pays as much as they can possibly get. But fundamentally, most individuals choose a workplace where they enjoy and will avoid the changing that for the sake of it. So there is that social animal in us that we need to keep that communication going.
Yeah, got to be really, really aware that we are social animals. We need that, and go back to the worst form of corporal punishment is solitary confinement. By furloughing people, we're putting them into solitary confinement. So we've got to make sure that we mitigate that the best we can. Okay. And thanks to Clark 5N, I say no furlough in the NHS, no, but that sense of purpose, that is a real motivator. That purpose comes through that performance, that connective relationship side of things. It's building on that. So if you've got a sense of purpose within the business, if they are furloughed, if they can help with that through their training, then great. They'll buy into that if they're bought into you, into your business as a whole anyway. So that was really, I think we've just sort of come to the end of our time on that. Anything you want to add, Stephanie, that I might have missed?
No, I don't think there's anything you've missed. It's just the keeping communicating and talking to people and just reflecting that everybody's at different stages. Everybody has different feelings and emotions. You can't expect everybody to be at that same stage, and it's acknowledging that with different people.
Yeah, and you do need a people plan. There's no good doing this ad hoc. You should have a written down 90-day plan, how I'm going to keep my team on board. If you go back to my original 4-step crisis management part, number 1 was finance, number 2 was team. We talked a lot about a plan around the team. Once you've done the furlough stuff, that's fine. Then we move on to this bit, which is motivation while they're off. Once we've done that, as we come back, hopefully in May into June, there'll be then another plan around bringing the people back on. So what I'm thinking, Steph, is we'll do another one of these in a few weeks' time. As we get close to we're going to bring people back in, that there'll be a re-engagement plan that we need to put in place, because that will be another step in this process. Okay, so all of these areas, we've got to sit down, write that plan, and then action that plan as we go through. So before you
don't make the assumption that one size fits all, because different people have different things going on in their lives, and whilst the same principles apply, you don't know. Somebody might have real debt problems, and actually this has triggered things off, or they've got relationship problems. Actually being at home is a real challenge. So whilst you kind of need to come up with one model around how you're going to deal with things, you will need that variability, because people and we're all different.
And if you come up with something that has actually worked, you've tried it and it's worked, please share it on the WhatsApp group. It's really good. It's not only put the questions and the negative stuff, put some wins in there. If you said, look, I did this and I got a really good response, because we're all sitting there going, well, I might do this, but I don't know if it's going to work, and is it worth the effort? And if somebody's done it and got positive, then that will give us all that confidence to try again and give it another go. So if you do want a bit of help with that people plan, again, I'm still keeping those slots free every day. I've done quite a few this week. If there's multiple people, I'll do them together. But please do let me know if you want to take one of those up. Again, join the WhatsApp group so we can keep track of those ideas. If you don't know about the WhatsApp group, please message me and I'll send you a connection so you can come onto that. We're just keeping everyone abreast of what's going on. And for next week, what we're going to go back to is some cash generation ideas. Okay, so I know we've got the finances in place. We did the bank stuff and the civils thing last time. I've got coming in for next week, James from the Solar LEP. There is a crowdfunding grant. I did post on it on the WhatsApp group a while back. I was a bit skeptical about it at the time. I'm still a bit skeptical about it, but I've actually seen some places it's been used really well. And actually, I thought I'll take back my skepticism because I can see it actually working in certain areas. So James is going to give us a bit of insight to that, but also there's a lot more coming through the LEP to help. And maybe they're trying to bridge those people that are being missed out from the main grants that are in the grey area on the edge. The LEP are going to try and fill some of that gap as well. So we're hoping they're having a meeting next week. He's hoping to come up with some good ideas that the LEP are going to come up with to actually help with that as well. And I've got Paul from Debt Coal really about this sort of helping us actually get our customers to pay because there is that pressure at the moment where we're on lockdown. You know, how do we entice that money away from our customers when they're going through the same problems that we're going through? Okay, so that'll be again 4 o'clock next Friday. This recording will be on the video hopefully tonight, if not over the weekend. So again, if you have missed it or you want to watch it again, watch it. If you know anybody else that wants to get some insights of what we've done, then please let me know. So so it just leaves me to thank Steph for giving her time again. And thank everybody. We've had a good number of people on today. Again, if you've got any questions, please ping me emails. I'll do my best to answer as many as I can, and look forward to sort of helping you through this over the next few weeks. So thanks everybody. Great to have you on, and great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye all.